Hey everyone, welcome back to the AddMeGamers channel. As always, this is Dan here to do another StarCraft 2 commentary, and we shall be continuing Game 2 between Lucifer and Slayer. Of course, this map is Tal'Darim Altar, if I got it correctly. And we shall be obviously continuing with Game 2 and Tal'Darim Altar. So of course, nothing really much happening between these two players initially, but I must say Game 1 between these two players was ridiculous, especially Slayer's very nice psych out that really fooled Lucifer into thinking that I did say that I'm not going to be calling LucifroN, because that just sounds weird. I'm going to call LucifroN Lucifer and SlayerScella as Slayer. Just to get it cleared out, again, we do have on the bottom right as the red Terran player as Lucifer, or LucifroN, and on the top left we do have SlayerScella as the blue Protoss player. Anyways, back to Game 1, the game between these two was very interesting. We did have, of course, Slayer psyching him out with that probe actually moving back up after placing down that initial pylon with that gateway, so very nice play by Slayer. I haven't seen that strategy for quite a while. I do recommend you guys watch Game 1 from this series, as it was really interesting to see. We do have, of course, anyways, back to the game, we do have that refinery coming up online for LucifroN, and I do believe he is going to be going probably either for that research pretty early on in terms of getting that stim research online, or he might be using that to get those 1-1 upgrades, or he might be pushing out with the factory to try a little bit of Hellion harass in the beginning. Time will tell. We'll see exactly what's happening. We do have that second Nexus already up online, and of course that gateway with the assimilator as well. So for LucifroN, we do finally finished that first gateway. Yes, we do have that factory, so I do believe that refinery is going to be finally used to produce those Hellions, so we should see a little bit of Hellion harass by LucifroN. A very interesting play so far. I do believe this is a little bit of payback, since previously Slayer did manage to push out pretty early and did take down and did do quite a bit of damage for LucifroN before he did try to expand, but of course it was a little bit too late. Slayer did have the upper hand by being or having that initial game harass, and it did really slow down LucifroN's you can say build back, and really he didn't have time to do anything about it. So do we have that reactor? It might actually be a hot swap between these two, so we can directly produce those double Hellions. Yes, we do have that hot swap with that barracks, so we should have those double Hellions coming online as quickly as possible. So he's going to go with that double Hellion harass. Of course, the SCV coming down by LucifroN to scout out the actual Slayer's base to see exactly what is up. He did see that secondary assimilator, so he does presume that he should see either a little bit of teching up or an initial harass, but I do presume that he is seeing that teching up is happening, or that drone build-up is happening for Slayer. So nothing really happening. The SCV, of course, is still moving back. We should have that warp gate research coming online as soon as possible. There it is, already being researched, and here come those double Hellions with that one Marine for that initial game harass. He should be obviously charging in with those Hellions. Since there is really no wall off, he should easily be able to charge in to the back of the base and take as many probes out as possible, but I do believe by that time the secondary base should have enough probes, so he is still trying to continue that wall off. Still a little bit of an exit, still a little bit of a way through, though. Those probes are being pulled off as he does manage to see those Hellions. Is he going to be pulling off the Hellions from... Is he going to be pulling off the probes from the line? Of course, one probe drops already. The Stalker chasing down those Hellions. Hellions are going in for the kill. Of course, probes being pulled off the line. He should obviously be not pushing them towards Lucifer, but moving back. Two more probes drop. I don't know why he's placing those Hellions that way. He still did manage to lose quite a bit of probes in terms of dealing with a very nice miss by... Again, a few more probes are being lost by Slayer. Slayer still moving down with that Stalker, trying to get those Hellions. More Hellions, of course, in play. More Hellion harass going in. He is managing to fry those probes pretty well. We do, of course, have a lot of units lost in terms of Slayer. Slayer actually did manage to lose 11 units killed, 11 workers killed by LucifroN, so he did lose those. Let's take a look at the amount of workers killed, 11. So he did lose 11 workers in total. Still the Hellion harass continuing. We do have that one Marauder as well. He is going in for that pylon. That pylon was will to actually prevent any push coming in. He is trying to keep it up and as much as possible, alive as possible. Of course, this pylon is going to drop and make those Hellions charge in again, and they are going to obviously bypass all these units and go in for that production line. Slayer should be pulling off these probes already, as he knows that they are going to be going in for that production line. We do have more Hellions streaming across. They are frying those probes pretty well, and we do have more Stalkers coming online as well to try to stop this push. And of course, we do have more Hellions streaming across the map, as this is early on Hellion harass by Lucifer. So so far he did manage to build up a good amount of stalkers, and he is finally pushing back and moving back to retaliate. In terms of this, of course, Lucifer knows that this is coming, so he is retreating. Of course, these stalkers should be able to pick off the Marauders pretty easily. They might even get the second one, but he finally decided to make a stand, and he is actually going to be moving back. But I don't think there is really much of a match against these 4 stalkers. So. But of course, these Hellions decide to cross back and move back. But of course, we do have these 2 stalkers and that 1 zealot stopping and preventing that wall off. So these Hellions are going to be moved to go back, and a very nice pincer movement being sandwiched between the 2 stalker units, and 1 Hellion is lost. So he is going to be retreating, reinforcing with 2 more Hellions on the way, and he might be pushing on. No, he decided to stick with the Zolnaga Tower. So far, we do have the stim research coming online for Lucifer. So, and we do have pretty switching down to, of course, those racks. So we do have finally the first bunker, and we do have that factory being moved off. So we do have the starport, of course. So we should presume that this is due to building up those medevacs. So we should have, I do believe, a bio-heavy. This factory is not even being pushed out to produce any units or to be used for scouting. So far, nothing really happening. We do have those 3 stalkers moving in to prod and see exactly what is happening in Lucifer's base. Of course, that frontal bunker is still not complete, so we should be able to push forward pretty easily. But of course, we do have those units, those Marauders should be moving back. And finally, a nice wall off by those Hellions that should prevent these stalkers from doing any scouting. And they will actually end up losing these stalkers pretty well, as these Hellions are going to be pretty, of course, they are much quicker, so they should easily catch up with these stalkers. But I don't really see this to Lucifer's advantage, as the amount of resources being lost as the stalkers are pretty effective against those Hellions by themselves. It did take quite a bit of time for those Marauders to give that additional firepower to take them out. So he did lose again resources. Let's take a look at those resources lost. So far, we do have Slayer just a little bit behind in terms of resources lost, but of course he did lose 25 units to 17, so Slayer still has a little bit of catching up to do. Lucifer finally pulling off a few of those SCVs to start off that secondary base, though Lucifer may be still ahead, but Slayer did get that secondary nexus up and running. So economically wise, I do believe he is a little bit ahead though in terms of production. Slayer should be ahead in terms of production. Let's take a look at the units. We have 36 probes to 33. Of course, Slayer was supposed to be ahead, but of course, since that Hellion harass did manage to fry a lot of those probes, still pushing actually Slayer down to be equal in terms of resource production wise with Lucifer. We do have, of course, that frontal wall, sort of semi-wall, being pushed there or put there in that nice concave shape, the most effective shape to take those units out as possible. We do finally have a push coming. We do have that stim research is complete. We do have those Hellions, Marauder, Marine push. And pretty interesting to see, of course, 2 more medevacs coming into play, and we do have the continuation of production of Marauders and Marines from 3 barracks. So far we do have double Marines being produced as those reactors and a single Marauder. So it's a pretty heavy push, though. I do presume that Lucifer will be able to spot this out, of course, with these 2 stalkers. He knows this is coming. The moment he sees those medevacs, he will retreat, and we should have a couple of force fields being placed down here to prevent the actual push by Lucifer. Guardian shields up, and we do have those forcemen splitting those units up, being able to take out those units. Of course, the medevacs load up the units to prevent those losses. Again, more forces placed back so we can retreat, and those units are going to be dropped pretty quickly. Of course, Slayer, realizing he's taking pretty hefty amounts of damage, he's moving back, and more force fields should be placed. I don't really see this advantageous on Lucifer's side, even with the stim research online, the amount of stalkers and the amount of force fields placed. Medevacs, of course, retreating. He's not going to be losing those medevacs, and he is going in for the complete kill, and Lucifer is going to lose all these units, as he knows he was going to lose those units anyway since he moved those medevacs back. So he is, of course, going to be most probably resupplying. Is he going to be? No, he decided to keep those units back at his base, as he does expect a little bit of retaliation in terms of Slayer, but Slayer still not moving out. He is going in for his 3rd base, getting rid of that destructible debris, and so far we do have those 1-1 upgrades for Lucifer, and Slayer is still not going. We do have that Twilight Council coming online as well, so we should see some pretty interesting play in terms of the Twilight Council by Slayer's side. Those 1-1 upgrades, we do have, of course, 2 more barracks, so he is going the bio-heavy. We do have finally 5 barracks up and ready. Of course, I do believe that where's the Marauder? No, it was the Marines being actually pretty well queued up, so he is going a very Marine heavy and a little bit of, we do have finally that armor, so we should see that 2-2 upgrades as well. Since that armor is being in production, he does want to directly continue with those 2-2 scan coming down by Lucifer, just seeing exactly what he has. He sees the amount of gateways, and he knows what he's going to be expecting in terms of Slayer's ability to cope with anything Lucifer decides to throw at him. So he will have to rethink his actual strategy by pushing out. As you can see, he's not really sure in terms of pushing out, and that's why he decided to wait out at the base itself. We do have finally that Psionic Storm online with those High Templars, so we should see some very interesting storms being laid down by Slayer. So of course the Zealot charge as well. Again, he is moving Lucifer for that third base, so a little bit behind in terms of Slayer, but still those 3-3 bases for both the players are going to be coming online as soon as possible. We do have that frontal pylon and another pylon, so we should see that Nexus coming up pretty soon. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice quite a bit, but so far we do finally have that Mo-based reactor, of course, being researched as well. So really Lucifer is droning up pretty heavily so far. We do have, of course, more barracks. We do have currently a total of 7 barracks coming online, out of which he is finally switching to more Marauders to balance out the amount of Marines he's producing, of course. Finally Slayer decides to push out with a couple of Dark Templars who do have that Psionic Storm nearly complete, so he is just about to hit Lucifer's base with those Dark Templars ready with that Psionic Storm, so it should be very interesting play. A couple of Ghosts, of course, coming online for Lucifer. This is going to be a very interesting push, as these two armies are going to collide. It's going to be pretty good. A little bit too late with those bunkers being placed down. I do believe he's going to be pushing out. It's going to be too late. Everything is going to drop. Of course, he's going to be steaming up those bio units moving forward, and of course Slayer decides to retreat. He's not going to be pushing out those bunkers once they are complete. It's really going to prevent Slayer from being able to push out so early. Of course, he is retreating up to the higher grounds to be able to have some certain strategic advantage, but realizing that Lucifer didn't pick that bait and he's not going to be going for it. Of course, he's starting with those 2-2 upgrades, as that armory did complete. So far it's pretty interesting. Of course, that third Nexus has been placed. More units streaming across the map by Lucifer, more Dark Templars, and so far it's pretty good in terms of what's going to be happening pretty soon. This army is going to collide, and finally Slayer is moving in, and those supply depots, sorry, they weren't bunkers, those supply depots are up to make that wall, so it's going to be pretty hard for Slayer to be moving forward anytime soon. He is trying to flank, I do believe, that base, and this is going to be a very nice flank. That's exactly what he needs. He needs to go around, as there's no wall here. He should be able to push out pretty quickly. The bunker is going to drop. Of course, Charge Zealots running into the actual resource line. They are going to be taken out. Another storm is being placed down. More storms being placed down. Very nice storm, pushing those bio units to move back. Of course, more Zealots. A couple of snipes coming down from the actual Ghost themselves. And finally, the stimmed up units of by Slayer, by Lucifer, are managing to push back those units, of course, being forced back by those storms. And we do have, of course, those Dark Templars in play. Very nice play by those Dark Templars. Of course, more snipes coming down by those Ghosts, and a very nice placement by that Psionic Storm. Again, stimmed up units are moving forward very aggressively. Still alive, heavily damaged, but still alive units. He does need those medevacs to get in. Of course, Slayer retreating, as that push didn't turn out to be anything what he did expect, especially with those 2-2 upgrades. Of course, that force field preventing Lucifer moving forward. A very nice placement by those force fields, finally making him able to move up and being able to catch his breath. Of course, those reinforcements should make that push pretty well, but I do believe once those 2-2 upgrades, which are complete, are going to make Lucifer's bio ball pretty hefty to actually go up against it. We do have no upgrades by Slayer, and he should be able to take care of Slayer's base as long as he keeps an eye on those Psionic Storms, especially with those Ghosts in play. So far it's so good. And another Psionic Storm, a little misplacement by that time. Very nice placement by those Storms. There should be some very heavy losses by those bio units themselves. Already those bio units are very critically in terms of their health, as they aren't being able to heal up, as they are pretty much stimmed up to the maximum as they can. So of course they're going to be retreating to try to heal up as much as they can by those medevac units. We do have the first Archon finally morphing in by those 2 Dark Templar, and finally those 3-3 upgrades. Still no upgrades by Slayer, so Slayer is just really working off producing those units and producing out of those gateway units as many units as he can. We do have that planetary forces coming online. It's probably going to be one of the 4th base, the one at the corner, so he is expanding Lucifer or LucifroN to that 4th base, and Slayer, of course, wants to counteract this very successful attack by LucifroN, as those bio units did manage to tear through LucifroN's, Slayer's actual Protoss units. Of course, the Charge Zealots are moving in, but he is going to be moving down. Of course, a very nice placement by that Psionic Storm, being able to do hefty damage, but not really that much. The scan comes down to be able to pick up those Dark Templar. Dark Templar are pretty much wiped out, and I don't really see Slayer being able to do much in terms of this. Of course, he is trying to probably move back. I'm not sure if he's going to be trying to flank from... he can't go from down there, so he's not really... He's just trying to keep that base alive as long as possible. and he took down that pylon itself. And those 3-3 upgrades are already halfway through. We finally have the level 1 upgrades for Slayer, and a little bit late though. I don't see he will be able to keep up with the amount of bio units and the amount of production that LucifroN has. He should be able to mop this up pretty quickly. He really has no chance whatsoever. Slayer was going to lose all these stalkers, so this is the end of Slayer's army, and just a matter of time. Of course, those snipes take out those Dark Templar and the last of, those High Templar, and the last of the High Templar is retreating. He might actually be even taken out on the way back. It really depends. Yes, he is going to be taking out. Those concussive shells did slow the High Templar down, and that's the end of the High Templar. A couple of Zealots moving in, trying to just be a little bit of a nuisance. They will be doing a little bit of damage, but of course, the small little bio ball, it should be able to take care of these Zealots pretty easily, of course. Finally, a retaliation by LucifroN. Scan comes down to be able to see those High Templar in place so we can take them out. So finally a push, of course, the charge Zealots moving in. Another Cyanide Stone, very nice placements. Of course, the bio units being retreated from the Cyanide Stone to prevent so much damage. More units warping in by Slayer, but since Lucifer's upgrades are really are really taking out those Protoss units, Slayer knows that there's no point in continuing the game. So he does call it a good game, and so far, very nice second game by Slayer and LucifroN. And this game, overall, Slayer did lose, as he did just decide to continue playing in terms of just producing mass amounts of units without those upgrades, and that really did cost him the game, even though he did have more units in production, and he did produce a hell of a lot more units. But since they didn't have those upgrades, they really were being torn down by those Marauders and Marines that had a 2-2 and nearly a 3-3 upgrade. So this is it for Game 2, and as always, give it a thumbs up if you enjoy it, subscribe, which is free, and see you guys in Game 3.